今日走ってみるかね。
お願いします。
Way. The other engines were very cross at being left behind. Edward worked hard all day. The coaches thought he was very kind, and the driver was very pleased. Edward went off to do some shunting. It was fun playing with trucks. He would come up quietly and give them a push. Then he would stop and the silly trucks would go. Edward played till there were no more trucks. Then he stopped to rest. Edward laughed and went to find some more trucks. To call to Edward's driver, "Will you take Edward and push him, please?" They found Gordon halfway up and very cross. His driver would grumble Gordon. They pulled and pushed as hard as they could. "I can't do it, I can't do it, I can't do it," puffed Gordon. "I will do it, I will do it, I will do it," puffed Edward. Edward pushed and puffed and puffed and pushed as hard as ever he could, and almost himself at the top of the hill. "I've done it, I've done it, I've done it," he said. Edward was left out of breath and far behind. He ran on to the next station, and there he found that the driver and fireman were very pleased with him. As time went on, Edward and Gordon would often pass by. Edward would say, "Peep, peep, hello." Use, Edward can't push the train. Edward puffed and pushed and pushed and puffed, but he couldn't move the heavy. Ready? "Done it together," said Edward and Henry. "You've done it, hooray! You controller." Edward and Henry helped Gordon back to the shed. All three engines are now great friends. Henry doesn't mind the rain now. But one night, Edward came to the shed. He was a kind little engine and felt sorry for Tom. Everyone came to admire James. Don't push," replied Edward. The coaches were grumbling too. "Don't go so fast, don't go so fast." But James didn't listen. When at last they stopped at the next station, two coaches were beyond the platform. They had to go back to let the passengers out. But no one seemed to know about the Fat Controller's top hat, though James felt happier. Presently, they came to the station where Thomas was waiting with his two coaches. "Hello, James," said Thomas. "Feeling better?" "That's right." Edward and James passed the field where James had had his accident. The fence was mended and the cows were back again. Guards stopped the trucks and got out to warn approaching engines in the yard. When Edward pulled up, "Peep, peep," he whistled. Then, most troublesome trucks on the line behave. Sadly, Edward was shunting. "Leave those trucks, please, Edward." So Edward found coaches for the three engines, and that day the trains ran as usual. He soon learned what he had to do, and they had a happy afternoon. Edward and Thomas worked the main line, greeting each other as they passed by. Percy puffed Thomas again. Next, Edward took some empty trucks to the quarry. Percy was left alone. "What do you think is wrong, fireman?" asked the Fat Controller.